If our mindfulness of the mind is slow, we should start by being aware of when greed, raga, anger, dosa, or delusion, moha, arise, remain, and fade away. For some people, they need a faster object of mindfulness. When happiness arises, know so. When unhappiness arises, know so. When neutral feelings arise, know so. These are objects for moderate speed of observing the mind. There are still yet higher levels. If your mindfulness is truly strong and your concentration, samadhi, is solid, you can observe the mind prior to the arising of feelings, vedana, and observe what condition feelings to arise. Can you answer this? Feelings arise after contact, phassa, the meeting of the mind and the sense objects. When the eyes see, the mind interprets what is seen, leading to happiness, unhappiness, or neutral feelings. Without mindfulness, when happiness arises, satisfaction and delight take over, and desire sneaks in. When the eyes see and interpret what is seen as something unpleasant, this is my enemy. Anger arises. Once anger arises, discomfort follows. Seeing that person makes you uneasy, and anger manifests. This is how the mind operates. So, if your observation of the mind is slow, observe the defilements. If your observation is moderately quick, observe the feelings, vedana, happiness, unhappiness, and neutral feelings arising in the mind. If you can observe feelings as they arise, the mind is happy, the mind is unhappy, the mind is neutral. Being mindful here, defilements won't invade the mind. If mindfulness doesn't arise to know feelings in time, defilements will sneak in. In this case, your observation is slow, defilements have already arisen, simply know them. The mind has greed, the mind has anger, or the mind has delusion. Observe them in this way. If you can observe faster, simply know the mind is happy, the mind is unhappy, the mind is neutral. At this stage, defilements haven't entered yet. By regularly being aware of your own feelings, defilements won't be able to fully manifest. They can only arise in minor forms. If the speed of mindfulness becomes faster, what would you see when observing the mind? You would see the mind arising and ceasing through the 6 sense bases. Those 6 sense bases are eye, ear, tongue, nose, body, and mind. The mind darts around to see forms, to hear sounds, to smell odors, to taste flavors, to feel bodily touch, or to think, or focus on mental objects. It operates in many ways, constantly moving around the 6 sense bases, which again are eye, ear, tongue, body, and mind. With enough practice, you'll be able to recognize whenever the mind drifts to see, hear, or think. When the mind goes to see, know it. When the mind goes to hear, know it. When the mind goes to think, know it. Observing the mind at this level is the fastest. It's the ultimate speed. However, not everyone needs to start here. It's not necessary. You can begin from any point that works for you. If you can observe defilements arising, persisting, and fading away, that's already good enough. That alone is sufficient for good practice. If you can observe happiness and unhappiness where the defilements haven't yet fully manifested, this is a moderate speed. If you can observe the mind arising and falling away at the 6 sense bases, that's the fastest. You'll notice that when the mind goes to see, hear, smell, or taste, there is no happiness or unhappiness. There is only neutral feelings, upekkha. That is, when the eyes see, the mind that sees is neutral. There is no happiness or unhappiness. Try seeing this for yourself. The mind that hears, smells, or tastes is also neutral, with only neutral feelings. Happiness or unhappiness arises afterward when the mind evaluates the form it perceives. If the form is pleasing, happiness arises. If the form is displeasing, unhappiness arises. When happiness arises without mindfulness, attachment forms toward pleasing form. Similarly, without mindfulness, encountering something displeasing leads to aversion. This process of the mind unfolds step by step. Practice observing your own mind. Notice whatever you can. If you can observe at the fastest speed, you'll know the moment the mind shifts. Most of the time, it moves toward thinking. Sometimes, it moves towards seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, or sensing bodily contact. For instance, if you're sitting and a mosquito bites you, the sharp pain will make the mind immediately focus on the bite. The mind shifts to the body. Observing the mind with greed, anger, and delusion arising and falling away is relatively easy. Keep practicing. Or notice when happiness, unhappiness, or neutral feelings arise. These 3 states are also not difficult to observe. However, observing the mind arising and falling away through the sense bases is more challenging. At first, you won't notice the mind arising and falling away. It'll feel like a single continuous mind. It darts to the eyes, and then when you become aware of it, you pull it back. Then it darts to the ears to listen. You realize the mind has wandered to listen, and you pull it back, because you believe the mind is a single continuous entity. You think, the mind is me. It is constant. This belief prevents us from seeing the truth, that the mind is impermanent, unsatisfactory, and not self. We instinctively feel that the mind is constant. We think that if it's free of defilements, it's inherently happy. We feel as though this mind is who we are. Do you sense that there is a self within you? Where is that self? Try finding it. It's not in the body. It resides in the mind, in this very sense of knowing. The word mind, citta, may sound intimidating, but here's the truth. It refers to knowing, the ability to perceive forms, feelings, or mental states. The mind, in its essence, is simply the nature of awareness. It perceives experiences and nothing more. When we refer to the mind as a sphere or a point, we do so based on abstract terms. The mind has no shape or form. There isn't any literal shape. Sometimes during meditation, we might perceive the mind as a glowing sphere, but that is merely a mental image, nimitta, a creation of the mind itself, nothing more.